after a couple weeks away, and not only did I miss the podcast, I missed E3, and this is the first time I've missed the show in I don't know maybe 6 years or so. So I felt out of the loop at first until I started watching until I realized I can watch all the press conferences live on the internet and all that other sort of thing. But it was mainly just out of the loop because I didn't get to hang out with you guys and all the other people that I don't see so often anymore. But
So, Sean, what's it like watching at a distance? And I don't know if you were keeping up on Twitter or various message boards or websites and things like that. But what was it like not being there, but sort of being there?
I think it was fine. I mean, let's see here. I'm kind of getting. I don't know if it's just that I'm getting jaded or if it's just a way of coping with the fact that I'm like so much more out of it than I was before, so to speak. Just because I don't have the same level of access. But in the end, it was kind of like it doesn't really matter that whether you're there or not, because you can watch all the conferences, you can see the videos yourself, and that to that note, I didn't even read any previews that were coming out of the show or anything. All I needed to do was get a bunch of video material together and then look at it and then have a conversation with like coworkers and stuff. And it was kind of at that moment that I realized, I was like, look, the biggest press conference of the year for this industry, and I can't be bothered to read a single preview. I mean, how much less likely am I going to be reading them throughout the rest of the year? I don't know if this is a way of telling myself, like, hey, you don't do this anymore, and don't, make yourself so you don't miss it by saying that it's irrelevant. But I just get the sense that now that now that I'm outside of it, I guess, that there's so much written about games, and it's not even a matter that I can't keep up with it all, but I just don't have the interest in it. I mean, most of the time I start looking around, and it's like, why is anyone reading this? And I feel like a shithead for saying that, but it's kind of the transition I'm going through.
I mean, I feel like part of that is just a function of the fact that at E3, it's a bunch of announcements with trailers and it's sort of a brief description of what a game is about, and then you get everyone's take on that. It's basically like regurgitating something from a presentation you could have watched yourself, and usually with no ability to ask any sort of follow-up questions or to do any sort of real story about a game. Like, why would you want to read about a game if there's not going to be any sort of actual story affiliated with that besides the story of a guy who got to play the demo? Like, that's not very interesting to me.
And that's the thing. It's like everyone you see, I saw my Facebook and Twitter feed, and it's like everyone letting the world know that they're there or that they're doing these things, but in the end, not really contributing to the conversation in the least bit, other than basically, it's like the equivalent of saying first post in a thread, like when a news story is posted or something. I mean, that's the sense I got out of it. I don't want to paint with such a broad brush that I make it seem as though I don't think there are people that have really distinct voices and have things to say about it. But like you're saying, under these circumstances where everyone's rushing from one thing to another, no one has any real opportunity to sit down and collect their thoughts. So maybe the podcasts were a vehicle for those voices to be heard. I'm not sure, but
well, I'll second.
I definitely felt like go ahead, go.
Yeah, I was going to second Sean on that. I mean, you really have to wonder about the kinds of people that would go to these press conferences and just Twitter, like nonstop. I don't know who would even think that's a good thing to do, but whoever does that kind of stuff really needs to be taken out back and shot. I just want to put that out there.
I don't know. I think that's just the what people think they are supposed to be doing right now. There's a lot of pressure to go in that direction. And I went to one big press conference this week, and I was up in the nose. And this is my luck. I went to one big press conference this week, and it was the Nintendo press conference, which was so boring and first thing in the morning. But I was up in the nosebleed section looking down, and I felt like everyone in the audience was twittering every single moment or tweeting or whatever, and it just seemed like there was an awful lot of social pressure to do that. Like, this is what we do now, and even though there was nothing obviously going on in that show that needed to be blasted out on your social network.